So hey everyone, welcome back to another train game devlog. As always, let's go over what happened last week and my plans for next week. Let's jump right in. A big focus this week was still the train yard, as it was still quite buggy. The functionality didn't really change that much, just that everything continues to work after, placing a card 5 times, no assets being overlaid over incorrect tabs, the scrolling working correctly. A lot of these features worked last week, but there were often issues with leaving the train yard and then entering it again, so it should now be just way more stable. Another change I wanted to do for quite some time, which was a bit more challenging than expected, was the moving train wheels, that these bars on the train are now actually moving in accordance to the forward movement, which I think just makes it feel immediately a bit more realistic and settled. During actual gameplay, it is not that visible, but especially in those top-down views, it makes a big difference, I think. The next change that I did is regarding fire damage. How fire damage was handled until now was that it is just a flat increase to the normal physical damage. What changed now is that it is a damage over time effect, which will continue to tick fire damage until it reaches 0. Every tick reduces the fire damage by 1, and the damage is applied roughly every second. So if there is an enemy that is afflicted with 4 fire damage, it will keep taking damage over the next 4 seconds. It was always my goal that elemental damage has some additional properties than just doing damage or reacting to a different kind of defense, and every elemental damage should have an additional effect. The damage over time effect is currently also accumulative. So if there is an enemy that is afflicted with 2 fire damage, adding 2 more fire damage will then bump it up to 4 fire damage. This addition required me to create another new system for my game, which is an effect system. This system keeps track on a per enemy basis, which effects are currently active, when they will end, how they should end, and things like that. So a more general system, but I'm currently only using it for fire damage. However, I'm pretty sure it will be more useful in the future for additional effects. The next feature was in response to one of the playtest feedback last week, which is the camera movement along the train. A playtester last week complained that they could not see the whole train, especially which weapons are on the back card and what these weapons are doing. So now, using the scroll wheel, it is possible to scroll back and forth, so you can either decide to see what is in front of you, or see more of your train. The final change is now also that the boss is working more correctly. The turrets are actually targeting the player train, and the player train does correctly do damage to the boss. Balancing is currently still quite off, but the base functionality works. So what are my plans for next week? Actually, I wanted to get to implementing more cards and weapons this week, but the train yard took a surprising amount of time to get done, so I didn't get to any of that. This is now also my plan for next week. Really now trying to get new cards and orbs into the game to make a bit more interesting choices possible. Another large pillar I want to tackle next week is the general environment of these maps. Currently it is very flat, very placeholdery, so I just want to make it a bit more pretty. But with this, we are at the end of this week's devlog again. So as always, if you have any questions or just some general feedback, feel free to ask it in the comments. But other than that, see you next week.